Hello, my friends. My name is Thad Riley, and this is episode number 231 of the Thadcast. I hope you're doing fabulous on this Monday morning after the weekend and getting back into the whole flow of life, of things, of the goodness of this world, and the positive outlook we should have. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Not just some positivity, some empty thing about rah, 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 and all this malarkey, right? Let's talk about the real, nitty gritty stuff, right? Okay, so this is something my pastor said on Sunday when I was watching. Well, actually, I don't know what day he said it, actually, because he's preaching, so who knows what day. He's on video, so we don't know when he said it. He could have said it 2 weeks ago. He could have recorded this sermon, who knows? It was great, though. It was great. So Bethany Church in Greenland is where I go. But this was one of his points. I was like, whoa, can I hit pause on this? Here it was. You ready? The pieces aren't falling apart. They're falling into place. Right? Right? I don't know if that's an exact quote, but I just sat there. I'm like, oh, the pieces aren't falling apart. They're falling into place. Why? Because who's in control? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's ask Ruth. Well, it's not my wife's Aunt Ruth. Or Ruth, who was in high school with me at the youth group, yeah. Rob's sister. No, we're not going to ask her. We're going to ask Ruth in the Bible, and her story is phenomenal. Okay, so talk about life falling apart. She had been happily married, living a life with a farming land with her husband, and family was there. Her sister-in-law, the two sons of the mom, and her mother-in-law is there, and her father-in-law. So everything's going well, and all the men die. Literally, all the men end up dying over a period of a decade. They're gone. So the women have no way to take care of everything, and they're living this life, and it's holy cow, what do we do? So Naomi, the mother-in-law, Ruth's mother-in-law, decides that she's going to go back to her homeland where there's some type of support, and send her daughter-in-laws, back to their parents where they can get some support and love. So the one daughter goes, I can't remember her name. It might have been Orpah. I could be totally wrong on this. But Ruth is determined. She's tenacious about staying with Naomi. And she's like, you are my blood. We're doing this. I don't care what you do. I am with you. And Naomi saw the determination in Ruth and consented and said, okay, you can come with me. Because Ruth had this fire in her. And who knows where this fire came from? I'm sure it was God working in her. They've seen their whole life fall apart, but she knows she's got to travel to this foreign land with her mother-in-law, right? She could have gone back to the safety of her family. She knew that her mother-in-law would probably be okay because she's going back to her homeland too, where she knows people and has relatives. But Ruth was like, I'm going to do this. So what happens? Well, they don't have anything. They don't have really any money or way to survive. So Ruth gets this job, and it's not basically a job. She's basically a slave. And she's walking behind the grain workers. And there's this field that's owned by a man, and he's got young men who work the field and run the whole field, and then there's these grain workers there, and they pick and go through the grain. So Ruth basically was kind of a slave type of person. She would walk behind all these grain workers and just scoop up whatever was remaining. Well, the owner of the field sees Ruth, and he's like, hey, listen, y'all better be taking care of her, right? Y'all do a good job out in the field. Next thing you knew, one thing ends up happening after another, and Ruth ends up marrying this very well-respected man who's got, fields and all this stuff, workers, and he's doing great. And Ruth marries a man who loves her named Boaz, and Ruth and Naomi are now taken care of. But I'm sure that Ruth never thought that she would be loved by a man of this prominence and this level when she was traveling with Naomi. I mean, she's probably like, we're just hoping to be able to eat, right? This whole thing is falling apart. Our whole life, our whole dream was so good, and now it's gone. But God had a plan over Boaz, right? And Boaz may not have had to go through the suffering and pain of Ruth, but Boaz, because of Boaz's plan over here, because of God's plan for Ruth over here, it all came together. right in the facet that the Lord wanted, right in that intricate little way that only God could have had his hand on it, it all comes together. Have you ever seen this in your life? Has there ever been a moment where your life is here, someone else's life is here, and something is going on here and here, and all of it interweaves and connects into this thing, this beautiful thing that God has created? And it isn't the way that you would have done things, but when you take a step back and look at it, it's so good. It's so good. So when times seem really hard, when things seem to be getting worse and worse, how do we respond to this? Is it with this hopeful expectation of what God is doing? Or is it with this demoralized, beat down, like, hey, it's over. Like, life sucks. It's bad right now. How do we respond? How do we respond? You know, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I remember in 2013 when the end of my first marriage was happening. I was, in the beginning parts, I was destroyed. Like, I hadn't cried, I think, in 13 years or so. I was sobbing daily. Like, I was so hurt, and felt so destroyed. As a husband, as a guy, I was just devastated, shocked and devastated. And I didn't know that much pain could live in me, right? I was like, hey, I'm doing good. Like, things would go down in my life, be like, we will figure it out. And then when that all hit, it was horrible. I had no idea the plans that God had for me with a girl I'd broken up with 22 years ago, and that we would end up becoming friends and falling in love and having this good marriage, and she's just the best, and it's good, and we're just, yeah. I never thought that when I was being bullied as a kid that God would do a good thing through that. So he would say, so one day you're going to be the dad and stepdad to 6 kids, and you're going to teach them to treat others with respect and to never, ever bully anyone. And I never thought that God would take those moments of when I was bullied and help me find my courage, help me find a space where I could not feel so intimidated and not go along with what is wrong. That's one of the problems with being bullied, is the person being bullied a lot of times will go along with it because they just don't have any self-confidence and they don't have any strength within themselves. God helped me in those situations discover my strength so that no one would ever do that to me again. And if they did try to do it to me again, at least I would be able to speak up on my behalf and set proper boundaries with that person. And I'm not saying I'm like always perfect that way, right? But God has given me a good semblance when I'm dealing with a bully of how to handle things and how to protect myself and to help them long term and to forgive people and to be okay with, the wrongs that others do with us. All that stuff was going on. I mean, in 8th grade, I had to be removed from a school. Literally, had to be taken out of a school for what was going on. I'd been there a total of 3 weeks. You want to talk about bad? Oh my gosh. I got punched in the gut. I got spit on by this guy, and it was pretty rough. But God allowed all of those things to happen so that I could use this today as a member of school board, as a dad, to help improve other people's lives and to forgive people who had picked on me years ago so that we could live in the joy of reconciliation and be like, hey, listen, we're friends now. It's all good. And that's a lot of the point of this, right? Like, these things happen. And God can do anything with them. 2 Chronicles 7:14 is a verse we talk a lot about. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. Oh, that's the verse of our lives right now, friends. That is so much the verse of our lives. We can learn to do life in an even better way. Maybe we need to let loose some of the idols that we clung to. I'm making up stuff. Clung to before the COVID-19 outbreak, this whole thing. Maybe we can let go of some of those idols and we can start afresh and anew, even when this is over. Guys, we don't have to go back to things the way they were. We don't have to go back to our favorite sports team the same way we did. We don't have to go back to the idols that we worshiped. We can start over. We can start fresh. We can start with Jesus. That's where we start. We see Ruth's plural is always so hard to say, like the possessive. Okay. We see Ruth and this determination, this tenacity, this deep knowing of Ruth that God was going to take care of her and Naomi. And that once she was set on the path, that she wasn't going to stray from God's best for her. I think we need to think about those things. What is God's best for us in coming out of this process that we've been through, this time that we've been through? What is God doing? That's probably the first question. What is God doing? And how can I be in the room in the right manner? What can I do with what God is doing in our world today? Man, can you imagine our world if we asked ourselves that question? If we said, this is what God's doing, we had a tenacity like Ruth about it, and we went and we're part of a better story. I don't know. I don't know if I want the world to go back to the way that it was. I don't know if I want us to live that way anymore. I think I want us to do a new thing, to be part of a better story. I don't know what it looks like yet. Neither do you. But my encouragement to all of us is to live in faith and hope and to know, like my pastor said, the pieces aren't falling apart. They're falling into place because Jesus is king over you, over me, and over this world. So that's it. That's it for this rainy Monday in Brentwood, New Hampshire. Episode 232, I think I said it was. I don't know if I said it was 231, but it's definitely episode 232 of the Thadcast. I will be back tomorrow with a new episode. Make sure you catch me on the YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, on Stitcher. I think we're on a bunch more than that too. So catch me on any of those, and make sure, if you could today, if this encouraged you in any way, to just share this with a single friend of yours, just one friend, or on social media. And if you could, those Apple reviews or YouTube reviews are always a nice thing to have. So anyway, thank you again for joining me here today, and until next time, may you be blessed.